right, good morning. I am going to try to keep to my time, although it's going to be a struggle. I was thinking about that famous Mark Twain quote where he said, I wanted to write a short letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote a long one instead. That was how this presentation kind of came together for me when I put it together last weekend, and then I learned it was 10 minutes. So I'm going to do some sort of work on the fly. So I'm Tom Hyry, I'm the director of Houghton Library at Harvard University. Incredibly happy to be here today. In fact, I feel honored. And I want to thank McGill for pulling us together. It's a really important time, not only for your own institution, but for the profession and, I would say the world at large. I have to confess that while I was thrilled to receive this invitation, when I learned I was being asked to serve on the researcher engagement panel, I had a moment where I wondered what I would have to contribute. As I've engaged in leadership, management, and administration over the past decade plus, it's been many years since I've engaged in any specific activity around researcher engagement in an archive or a library, and I have a nagging feeling that my domain expertise in the specific area is a bit rusty and faded. But then I remembered something crucial for us all to consider today and beyond. It's tempting to think of researcher engagement in terms of what happens in the reading room, at reference desks, or in online spaces. But in fact, everything a special collections and archives does is in service of researcher engagement in one way or another. So I thought what I might offer today is an overall view from my perspective of a library director of how we should be thinking and acting in a contemporary archives and library to serve as something as a baseline for our discussions on this panel and hopefully beyond. And along with this, I'm going to conclude with some exemplars of work we've been doing at Harvard. I plan to cover really a lot of ground in this presentation in a short amount of time. In a critical eye might see it as something of a dog's breakfast. So before starting in earnest, I want to remind us that libraries and archives serve a remarkably important role on campus and the broader community. As we get immersed in the day-to-day challenges of our activities and functions, it can be easy to lose track of why libraries and archives exist in academic settings, and that is to advance knowledge, educate students, and future citizens, and to serve the societal and cultural role of the university broadly conceived. Our efforts contribute to and can determine the development of an understanding of the past, essential for understanding our present and even in navigating our future more effectively. So, in conceiving of the success of our work, we should not think in terms of what we have, what our collections are, or how well we complete specific functions, but indeed on the extent to which we contribute to improving the world in ways large and small. I often get asked about my vision for Houghton Library. It's rather basic, and it's written here. It's to connect the collections and resources of Houghton Library to any and all who can make productive use of them for research, teaching, learning, and enrichment. This sounds simple, but carrying it out requires orienting every function and activity toward the vision, and it also implies barriers, traditional and current, that have been erected to prevent us from realizing this vision. Traditionally, special collections and archives in academic settings have been created by and for the privileged. We often exist in spaces designed to inspire awe and reverence, and accordingly to intimidate the uninitiated. Perhaps by earlier necessity, our standards and processes for access feel cumbersome by today's standards for search and discovery. Our access policies designed to secure and preserve valuable collections can alienate researchers and impede some types of research. At least at Harvard, our collections, staff, researchers, and visitors remain predominantly white. A successful future requires us to evolve to become more open, welcoming, focused on those beyond our traditional audience, collaborative, diverse, and inclusive. So, with this vision in mind and the time constraints, I'd like to, what I decided to do is distill my 20 slides or something into 5 theses that is going to guide what I have to say today. So I need to say little about collection development after that opening, except it's like what Jenny said. But I do want to just make the point that we cannot support research successfully if we don't have a robust and relevant acquisitions program. And I completely concur with the idea that we need to be informed by the past, but these activities need to be in the present and oriented towards the future. And Jenny's point about not filling gaps is super relevant. Perhaps more importantly, or at least not more importantly, but more for what I have to contribute today, we cannot support researcher engagement without comprehensive physical and intellectual control of our collections, at least at a basic level. Researchers need to be able to discover collections in catalogs and finding aid databases that are also exposed to search engines. Basic discoverability can no longer require researchers to have to talk to staff. Ideally, we want every volume represented with a catalog record, manuscript collections, and archives available via finding aids that include at least a robust collection level description and a container list that enables discovery and paging. At Harvard, we've developed a new set of processing guidelines with the principles here. I won't read them, but I offer them as a guide for thinking about the inevitable backlogs that we have built up and probably will continue to. And it's also a way of thinking about new collections coming in. I know this is what I've learned last night and a little bit this morning, this is a huge concern here at McGill, and so maybe this is something we can, I didn't prepare a lot on this, but maybe this is something we can discuss a little bit later. So, third is a point where I want to say that we should not conflate spaces with services, and by this I mean two things. Digitization and digital collections obviously promote use outside of the library, and we should let those digital collections be accessible as freely as possible and not lock them in to any sorts of policies that inhibit use other than what we are legally obligated to do. And then related, but a completely different way of thinking about this same point, not every collection needs its own reading room. And at each place that I have worked, we have really thought about consolidating service points and building expertise into those service points. I'd like to make the point that to have effective user experience that we need to understand what our users are thinking and how they approach us. At Houghton, we developed a user experience survey that had these results. It really has helped guide our thinking about how we develop our services. And then the fifth thought is that, no, that's the wrong thing. Healthy special collections and archives have a robust set of programs designed to promote research outside of our basic services of collections, discovery, and reader services. And this is something we've been putting a lot of emphasis on at Houghton. Some of this is traditional work, but we're trying to do it in a modern way with the idea that we're trying to expand engagement of, with the library. Bill just gave me the 3-minute sign, so I think what I'm going to do is tell you all about the thing I'm most excited about working right now. I made the point earlier that our spaces have often been designed to convey a sense of importance, convey a sense of you are in a special environment, but have had the consequence of not being welcoming and inviting. And in fact, over the last year or two, we've committed a feasibility study of Houghton Library, where we are taking spaces that have been designed for the knowledgeable user and trying to engage, to create more engaging, rotating spaces that welcome people in. We're going to solve an accessibility issue, but the guiding principle of how we're shifting our physical plan, relates to these concepts of accessibility in a literal and a figurative way, and to become a more welcoming library. And essentially what we want to be saying is not, are you sure you should be here? But instead, please come in. Yeah, we'd love to help you. I thought I would just throw this slide up. These are things I struggle with, and I know I'm really looking forward to the paper on digital scholarship, but I feel in my perspective there have been lots of model projects and very few places that do the work systematically very well, and we have to be able to evolve to support this kind of new work. The role of the main library that we work in is changing very dramatically as well in terms of collection services and how we take care of collections. And then I'm really concerned about things happening outside of our libraries. The narrative of the decline of the humanities is very real. We have far fewer, at Harvard we call them concentrators, but what they really mean are majors in traditional humanist disciplines. I don't worry about that for the fact that we want more students in the humanities. It's that we honestly believe that the humanities have something to contribute to society at large, and if fewer students are learning and taking those classes, then that's a problem. We feel like we have something to contribute to that, but we need to be thinking in terms of not outside in, but in fact inside. What's inside getting what's inside the library out in very way. And then Laura's panel about, or Laura's slide about the declining sense of what is true and what is not, and the decline of liberal democracy, is really frightening. And I feel like as educational institutions, we have a really critical role to play in helping it. So thank you. I think I'm probably a little over, but it's good.